I don't know if you've read the story about the Gauteng department dumping utility bills of no fee paying schools. So we're going to look into that. How are these schools meant to manage without the support from the department? So we'll speak to the department, we'll speak to the DA that's flagging it, and we'll also speak to the National Association of School Governing Bodies to find out how they navigate. So all of this will be happening between now and 11 o'clock. You can call in, you can put questions to our guests if you have confusion and get clarity on some of these issues.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Calls have been mounting for the Gauteng Department of Education to immediately suspend its decision instructing no-fee-paying schools to be responsible for the payment of their utility bills and historical debt. Non-fee-paying schools across the province are facing utility disconnections. This after the department stopped paying their water and electricity bills. School governing bodies have expressed alarm over the sudden financial strain, highlighting the impossibility of covering such debts through fundraising in communities that are already struggling with high unemployment rates and limited resources. I'm joined by three guests to discuss this particular story. I've got Sergio Isa Dos Santos from the DA, that's the spokesperson for education. I'm joined in studio by Steve Mabona, who represents the Gauteng Education Department, and I'm also joined on the line by Matakanye Matakanye, who's the Secretary General of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Thank you so much. Welcome to Radio 702 to all of you. Sergio, I'll start with you very quickly because the DA has criticized this particular decision. You've called it financial dumping. What is your understanding of the motivation even behind this decision taken by the department?
Oh, firstly, good morning to you and to your listeners. To be honest with you, I don't understand the intention behind this. All that I can say is that I do believe this is financial dumping. This issue seems to be a much broader case. On Monday, I had a few schools from Soweto complaining about the same issue, so I'm waiting the information from there. Last week, Friday, I also received information from a number of schools in Tshwane. So this issue seems to be a lot broader and not just in Eldorado Park. But basically, what I say when I say it's financial dumping, it is. When you tell in schools without following due process and handing over historical municipal debt, some schools, as I've mentioned, 4.7 million rand, 4 million rand, 600,000 rand. When you're handing over this municipal debt to schools, and expecting them to pay when they're already in impoverished area. Many of them are no-fee paying schools. Even the schools that are classified as quintile 4 or quintile 5 are technically no-fee paying schools because they have very low collection rates, as little as 20% fee collection rates. Now the schools are facing possibilities of services being disconnected. Some schools have already received pre-termination notices in Eldorado Park, purely because the Department of Education has failed to pay these municipal bills.
You don't have a full understanding of the motivation. As I said, Steve Mabona is in studio, so we'll try and understand why. Ideally, though, Sergio, what would you like to see the department doing with regards to these schools? Obviously paying the fees, I assume, but how do you see them going about it? I'd imagine the argument we're going to hear from Steve Mabona is financial constraints on their part as well.
Well, that's the thing. Listening to his interview yesterday, I'm surprised that he's actually on the same line with me today. But they keep on referring to Section 25 of the SASSA Act, and Section 25 is the removal of functions from the SGB. We understand the SASSA Act. We're talking about Section 20, Section 21 especially, and Section 21 1D, transferring of the functions of paying fees to schools. Now, the issue is, again, and I'm going to reiterate, the issue is that there was no consultation. According to the schools in Eldorado Park, there was no consultation with the schools. There was no agreements by the schools, by the SGBs. There was no capacity assessments to see if they would be able to pay these fees. And there's been no training, and that's what is required in the SASSA Act. And just the procedural fairness, there has to be some sort of engagement with the schools to ensure that the schools are able to pay for municipal bills. You cannot hand over 4.7 million rand historical debt to a school, and when the allocations to the schools are considerably less than what they can afford on a monthly basis. So every single month, they're going to occur more and more debts because their monthly allocation is going to be considerably less. And over and above that, the department has paid 25% of their allocations to some schools. Some schools were saying that we're still waiting for our allocation payments.
Okay,
So,
all right. All right, Sergio. Thank you so much. That's Sergio Isa Dos Santos from the DA, who's kind of giving us a narrow picture of what's going on. I've got Steve Mabona in studio with me. He's already wanting to jump in and to say his piece. Steve, I'm going to ask you to wait a little bit. I want to bring in Matakanye a little bit. Matakanye, thank you so much for joining us. So, Sergio Dos Santos spoke about schools in El Dorado Park, now mentioned schools in Soweto, saying that this is actually far more greater than what they understood initially. From the National Association of School Governing Bodies, how widespread is this issue? How broad is it where schools aren't being assisted with utilities by departments? Is it just a Gauteng issue or is it beyond this province?
Good morning, and good morning all your listeners and the fellow interviewees there. We quickly just want to call the Department of Education, particularly in Gauteng, to sort up this mess. They must just sort up this mess without really coming there and start spinning and start now talking this and all those things. Department must just sort. And I talked to the MEC that the officials are disorganizing the system. The MEC must deal strictly with these officials because the officials are really embarrassing the MEC in the sense that now things are not. I mean, look, and we have been complaining about this thing that officials are arrogating the role and responsibility of the school government to themselves. And look, we are in this mess because of them. One way or another, they must have had an intention of doing this. Because the truth of the matter, if you give a governing body a function, particularly Section 21, they apply, you give them. And from there, if then they don't function, then you must train them. And you can't just arrogantly take this function without training them, without giving them that functions. And it is different with the Section 20. And we don't know why really and truly they take that service and they bring the service. And we don't know how much schools are owed. I mean, how much municipality are owed. Because schools complain that now the money that has been given back, it is less than the money that they're supposed to pay. You know, we don't know what is this mess. So
how bad is it, though? How bad is it? Tell me what SGBs are telling you about the different schools. My greatest concern in all of this is that no fee-paying schools are already in communities where there's little. Already those children are at a disadvantage. So when you hear this back and forth between the department and the SGBs, my heart sinks because the people who are punished are those children. While you go back and forth about sections. So help me understand, how bad is the situation? What are SGBs reporting to you? What are they dealing with? Are lights being turned off? Is water not running at schools? And how bad is it? How wide-reaching is it?
Let me tell you, Tshidi, in Iguruleni, I intervened in Iguruleni. I talked directly to the acting HOD, Mr. Chani, when the current HOD was on leave. I talked to him, he was acting then, and he said he's going to talk to the municipality. Then he talked to the municipality, they opened. No. But the impact is that, you see, particularly Gauteng is going to an era where it is called the paperless education, or the paperless time, where there will be no papers in school. So if there are no papers in school, we are going to use all the gadgets. When we teach, we use all gadgets. Then gadgets are controlled by power. And if there is no power, it means there is no schools in our education, or there will be no curriculum delivery in the school, because we depend entirely on energy. And secondly, if there is no water, how do you expect these children really, when if nature calls that has a very serious impact. So it means, therefore, if there is no water, then the children have to stay at home until there is water in schools. And if there is no electricity, children have to look. If then electricity will be brought after a month or 2 months, it means that these children will adjust as if it is the time of COVID. You remember the time of COVID, how we suffered during the COVID time, and they are just bringing this is tantamount to COVID,
So they're setting the children back. How do the SGBs try and raise money in situations where the SGBs themselves must try and raise funds? What do they often do to try and make up for the money required for those utilities?
Look, the poorest of the poor, the township, the rural, the deep rural, they don't have, the skill of raising funds. And among them, really, there are no professionals and all those things. The professionals, even the very trained children that we are teaching, once they become professional, they leave the township, they leave the rural, the deep rural, and all those. So there are no people who are skillful, except that now they use these very children to raise funds. We can have concerts in schools, we can have tournaments, children play among themselves, and all those. That is the one way of just raising funds in schools to augment to the services that are paid by the schools. Okay. And through, we are opposed to this question of selling liquor in schools.
That should not happen. That's unlawful. What? That should. We don't even want to see that thing. We don't want to see that thing in schools, because we don't want to produce drunkards. We don't want to produce people who destroy the future of this country. We don't. Nobody wants that at all.
That methods can do. Yes.
Matakanye, thank you so much for your time. I want to bring in Steve Mabona, who's been switching on the microphone all the time when it's not his turn to speak. Steve Mabona is the department spokesperson, the Department of Education. He is here with me. The one thing that many will agree with, Steve, is we want this mess sorted. There are children at the heart of it, from our understanding, who are then punished. So when the SGB body says sort this mess out, when the DS says sort this mess out, those are sentiments many of us will agree with. What's actually happening?
No, thanks very much, Tshidi, and all our listeners. Tshidi Madia is a contact with us from the HOD to the MEC. As you can hear,
he says, yeah.
But if there are issues, then you need to come closer and understand, so that you can be briefed on what really transpired. This thing started last year when municipalities across the board, they were switching us off in all our schools. So we had to then negotiate with municipalities, because they were saying, look here, your schools are owing us, and that's why we are switching them off. And we had to negotiate. Our CFO had to move around all these municipalities, interacting with the CFOs of the municipalities, coming up to an agreement of some sort. To a certain extent, they wanted something written to say, you need to commit. And in the commitment, you must tell us how much you're going to pay us. So there's no phone call from Tshidi Madia to the CFO and to stay open and then they open. No, it's not the truth. We negotiated with all the municipalities and negotiated with Treasury. Said, Treasury, we are lagging behind. Can you give us more additional funding so that we can then pay off our municipal accounts? National Treasury gave us additional funding. We then went back and said, how much do we owe municipalities? All the schools that are affected, let's then pay for them. Let's not transfer the money to schools so that they can pay the municipal accounts. We then agreed with municipalities, these are the figures, but we will be in a position at the beginning of the financial year, we'll pay you this amount to reduce the debt. And also in the other months, which we've already identified, to say, we will also pay this amount to make sure that we complete the debt. We have started paying the debt. So this thing of saying we are dumping the debt into schools, it's not accurate. And we have responded to Santos because he asked us a question, and MEC responded to say, this is the situation. But he decided to ignore what we sent him as a response, knowing, I'm not sure what he's trying to do, because this thing is not only in El Dorado. If he were to do a spade work, it's happening across the municipalities. And we have negotiated, we have started paying. We're going to pay off the debts, but now, during the transfer allocation of funds, because we need to transfer in all the schools, the quintile 4s, quintile 5s, and even the no-fee paying schools. We said then to them, moving forward, you need to pay your municipal accounts because we are giving you an allocation. In that allocation, we are including money that we must use to pay your municipal accounts. You know, some were saying about what about learner material? The money that we send to school, 50% is for learner material. They must make sure that they procure. I think we assist over 200 schools where we procure for them your learner material. So across the board, we transfer money, and per learner in the no-fee paying schools, we're giving them 1.6 per child. And in the fee-paying schools, we're giving them over 823 rents for them to cater for what is needed there. So the shifting of them having to pay, they don't need to pay the debt. They must pay current, what they owe current. We're not talking about the debt. With the debt, we have arranged with the municipalities, we are paying off the debt. But they need to now pay for what they owe currently, so that they
from
don't
the allocation
have,
you
from the
gave
allocation
them.
that we gave them.
So why does it then feel like, because that sounds quite simple to me, then it feels like there is a mishap in communication or a lag in payments, because then it actually impacts the children. Because if you're saying to me that you're taking care of their debts, right?
Yes.
They don't seem to know, number one. One would imagine that they should know that the department says it's paying off their debts, and when the debt's paid off, they should be not told. Secondly,
No, we
hold on,
communicated
let
with
me
them.
finish another question. Hold on. The issue of allocation, when you give them money for learner material and for the day-to-day use, I suppose, do you then say, in this allocation, this much must go to servicing utilities every month? Is there that conversation? Because then we must look back at the school. Something's gone wrong.
Yes, and we've communicated with most of them in 2023 already, because for us to take the functions of a school, they must be performing bad in terms of the financial management. Those few that will be identified. That's why in El Dorado we say they are saying 6. Those 6 were identified as those that could not manage, their funds. Then in 2023, because we've been looking at them to say, we're going to take back or give you back the functions, because you will understand that after each and every SGB that is voted in, we do training. I mean, we have Matakanye that conducts training for all the SGBs that are new. And all these SGB, when did they start? Last year already, they started. So they are going through the training on how to manage finances. So there's no dumping of any debts that we need to clarify. And the allocation, we allocate as per the learners. Remember, statistics is quite key in education. That's why we'll normally do a head count to say how many children you have. Out of that, that's how we're going to be allocating money. So there's no way that we can allocate lesser than what is expected.
How many schools were affected broadly in the province?
No, across the board. In all across, I don't know
all the non-fee paying, or you
no,
never
no,
figure? Okay.
all the schools. All the
Okay.
schools, they were affected. They didn't pay their municipal debts, and we had to take over. But mostly those that did not pay, they're in the townships.
And then in terms of clearing that debt so that they're reconnected, that kids have electricity and water, how far along is the department?
Look, we negotiated with municipality, and you must say, we are hitting a brick wall in some of the municipalities. They were saying we're not taking it. But we had to knock in the doors and negotiate. We negotiated and we started paying. We paid the first tranche, and we will also then continue and make the other payments so that we don't have a debt. But we are not dumping that debt to schools. The schools must pay what they have currently consumed as per the municipal services.
And if we are stuck, if they can't service their debt at the moment,
Schools
the
have
intervention has to still come back to the department, doesn't it?
schools, according to the legislation, schools can apply for additional funding if they see that there's a shortfall.
Okay.
The legislation is there. It's allowed for them to request for additional funding, and it's even allowed for them to appeal if there's a decision that we took and they feel that it doesn't go along with them. Then they can appeal that decision and probably it can be reversed. But this is not only an El Dorado area issue. It's the entire province, not even Tshwane only. So Santos didn't do his work actually to go and check in the other areas, focused on El Dorado. But we understand, I mean, next year is elections.
It's 10:55. A couple of, I don't know, not to respond to that part. It's 10:55. There are some WhatsApps that I think have come through as well. Abel, please can we play those WhatsApps and put those questions to Steve?
Hi, Tshidi. I'd like to remain anonymous. I am part of an SGB at one of the best schools in the Joburg South District. It is true the department has cut funds. It is true they are threatening. We have received a letter that they will cut off the electricity. And this is a quintile 5 school that I'm serving at. So the department is failing our kids. It's really failing us.
What were the letters about that she's referring to? That you sent letters to schools? She says she's a member of an SGB. You did send threats to schools.
We're not saying we're cutting. We said they must pay their municipal debts. They must pay their municipal accounts, not debts. The debts we have acknowledged that we are taking over, will pay that debt. But what we allocate to them currently, they need to make sure that they don't say, no, we are owing municipality, we are not paying. No, they must pay the current utilization of the municipal services. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we are dealing with their debts. And we have acknowledged that, yes, our schools are, owing, and we have packaged the communication between ourselves and all the municipalities, because we have to negotiate that please don't cut us, because we'll be affected, dearly. Because most of our schools, they use smart boards, they use tablets. So without power, it will be really an inconvenience for the process of curriculum delivery.
All right, thank you so much. That's Steve Mabona. For me, it ultimately completely feels like it was miscommunication. I've got Sergio Dos Santos still on the line. Sergio, just very quickly want to bring you in. In essence, Steve Mabona is saying on your part, it's a lack of doing homework, that they had communicated, that they had gone to municipalities, and it doesn't sound like there's a service that they're trying to cut.
I was not, I apologize, I wasn't fully engaged in the conversation because, as I mentioned, I'm in another meeting. But the gist that I got, it is incorrect. The schools have complained that there was no engagement by the department in terms of training the SGBs, training the schools, doing a capacity assessment. None of that has taken place. All they were told, they were provided a letter saying from the 1st of April, you are now responsible for paying your school fees. And if you heard, you're listening to that gentleman from the SGB organization.
Matakanye.
Yes. He's basically saying the exact same thing. There has been no engagement by the Department of Education in ensuring that there's capacity building, that there has been assessments done to ensure that the school and the SGBs are able to afford and to be able to pay for municipal bills. Okay. What the spokesperson is saying is a complete fabrication. The schools are... If it's only 1 or 2 schools that are saying that,
all right.
You can say...
All right, so thank you. Steve, I want to give you very quickly the last word. Again, for me, all of this boils down to a lack of solid communication.
Yeah, basically. But we'll make inroads with our schools and make sure that all those that are given back this responsibility, they know what to do.
And understand what it actually means. That's part of what I feel is lost in translation.
Yeah, I think so. But we appreciate their input. We will make inroads with our schools and make sure that they understand on what is expected of them. But we are not dumping anything to schools. These our schools will support them. We negotiated on their behalf, and all municipalities agreed. Though it was a struggle, because they also have their own responsibilities in terms of finances. They've got shortfalls, so we had to make sure that we are in agreement, and we have committed because we've started to pay the municipalities.
All right, thank you so much. That's Steve Mabona from the Gauteng Department of Education. Good luck with the comrades. Also, thank you to Sergio Isa Dos Santos from the DA, as well as Matakanye Matakanye, who's the Secretary General of the National Association of School Governing Bodies.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.